kick it off.
Okay,
Yay, it
I'm
worked.
added.
Amazing.
Hello. Hi, Amy.
Hello. Hello, Anya, and everybody else who's here or not here or will join in later.
Hi, everyone.
Hey. So we thought we'd jump in this afternoon and really kind of introduce ourselves and give you a quick rundown as to what Sustainability 5.0 is and what it's going to look like and what the plans are for the coming year. And yeah, we thought we'd jump in and say hi. So yeah, Anya, do you want to kick it off and kind of introduce yourself? Awesome.
Okay, so I'm Anya. I'm based in Sydney. I'm Australian. And I've been working in the fashion industry for the past 10 years, and particularly in sustainable and ethical fashion for the past 4 years. I ran my own ethical brand with the Women's Co-op in India for a few years, and most recently I was in London studying the MA Fashion Futures Sustainability Masters program. So now I'm back in Sydney and looking to continue this work. And the universe has so lovingly brought Amy and I together. And Amy's going to introduce herself now.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm similar to Anya. I've got a background in fashion. Sorry, I forgot to say my name. My name is Amy. I'm based in New Zealand, so we're in the southern hemisphere part of the world. And I've got a background in fashion. Most recently been working within sustainable fashion with a platform called the Collab Nation, which I founded a couple years ago now. So that's been my work for the last little while. And like Anya said, the universe has brought us together to kind of co-create this space called Sustainability 5.0, which is really interesting because the work that we've been exploring here individually that led us to creating this this Sustainability 5.0 isn't work that either of us had heard anyone speak about or had experienced through someone else's work in the way that's kind of being brought forward now. And then somehow we were connected through a mutual friend and found that we had both been kind of being tapped on the shoulder with this work, and it became very clear that we were to kind of bring this forward in this way. So hence the birth of Sustainability 5.0. So we're going to kind of go over what is Sustainability 5.0 and give you a little introduction, and then kind of let you know what's coming up for it. So yeah, Anya, do you want to introduce that or?
Yeah, sure. So Sustainability 5.0 is what we think is missing in the sustainable fashion area. So it's really looking at those elements that at the moment are being backgrounded in sustainability in fashion initiatives. So looking at the elements around intention, reflection, really tapping into purpose, values, and really translating this into what we make and create. And we're talking about fashion here because that's the context Amy and I are both coming from, but really this can relate to anything that we make or create or envision. So with Sustainability 5.0, we want to create a space. At the moment, it's going to be an online space, but in the future, we would like to branch into live events, retreats, and so on. So this is just the beginning. So it'll be an online space for anyone who is open to this conversation around connection, around tapping into alternative rhythms and paces for design, for making, for really tapping into purpose, for looking at ancient and indigenous wisdom and how indigenous and ancient traditions can really guide us in this work. Really, and also really putting nature at the center of everything, moving away from our sense of identity as being just this physical form into really encompassing the earth and all its inhabitants. Amy, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think both of us really felt called to this work because we were working within the sustainable fashion scene and really feeling this discord within our practice where, you know, sustainability
Mm,
within the fashion context is being talked about as being very much around policies and procedures and,
mm,
you know, addressing the materials we work with and the tech and things like that. But it didn't feel as if we felt as if there was something missing. There was a
mm,
deeper piece of the puzzle missing, and that piece of the puzzle really comes down to a deeper connection to the five
mm,
elements that we've identified in Sustainability 5.0, which would be
mm,
the self, the sustainability of the self, and as
mm,
creatives, we're both very intimately aware of I guess some of the yeah the within the fashion scene, there's a lot of, I guess, how do I put this? Emotional distress, or there's a lack of connection to self, a deeper understanding
mm,
of self, a self care, a self value. And so
mm,
there's this sustainability of self that's missing. Um,
mm,
a deeper connection to our ancient and indigenous earth-based wisdoms. So there's so
mm,
much that those earth-based cultures, that ancient wisdom, indigenous wisdom can teach us about living in harmony today with our
mm,
natural world around us. And so remembering some of that wisdom that's been lost,
mm,
and bringing it into our practice and the way that we relate to the world around us. Um, a deeper connection to communities. We've moved so far away from our tribal groups. And I think that has a huge part to do with why we're at the place we are in our world today and why we overconsume and why we see so many
mm,
issues is because we're lacking this deeper connection in so many facets of our lives.
mm,
And because that's lacking, we're filling it with material possessions and with
mm,
a way of consuming in order to try to fill a hole that can't be filled that way. Um, and also a deeper connection to Mother Earth. And bringing that through into our practice as creatives within the fashion scene or within
mm,
any wider context as creatives, bringing back that connection to our natural earth and bringing back that connection to source, because we're all connected
mm,
to something. There's a deeper and wider creative force that connects all of
mm,
us, that connects all life. And so those were areas we identified as missing within the sustainability
mm,
conversation, and that it can't just be the
mm,
practical aspects anymore, because, you know, I think if you project down the road and we look at, okay, what if we did resolve the way, you know, the materials that we work with and all of these things, but we worked with the
mm,
same current business model and the same blueprints that we have. Do we really realize sustainability when our blueprint is founded upon consuming and scaling and all of these kind of
mm,
markers that don't lend themselves to sustainability? So how can we change the conversation around that, and how can we have a conversation that's, as creatives, bringing a deeper connection into our practice?
mm. Awesome.
Yeah.
Mm,
So I think the thing is that with this space, um, Ania and I very much know that this space will evolve and grow with us as we learn more of what we're
mm,
being asked to put out into the world. Um, you know, we don't have all the answers. We're just saying yes,
mm.
and really initiating the conversation. So this space will evolve and grow with time. Yeah.
Yeah. So should we, that's awesome, Amy. Should we introduce the five elements of Sustainability
Yes.
5.0?
Go
So
for it.
as Amy said, we've kind of identified the five missing elements that create Sustainability 5.0 that we feel are quite important and that we'd like to kind of tailor our content that we'll be sharing around these themes. So we have five themes. So the first one is source, ancient wisdom, self, community, and earth. perhaps we'll go into them a little bit for a few minutes, Amy.
Yeah, absolutely. You
Yeah,
jump in.
okay, so the first one is ancient wisdom. Oh no, so yeah, I'll start with ancient wisdom. So really that's looking at, tuning into the ancient wisdom of our ancestors and indigenous cultures and really tapping into that reverence and guidance that these original stewards of the land have held for us
Mm,
for thousands and thousands of years. So it's about connecting into this energy field and channeling it into the
mm,
world in a new way. These aren't new ideas, but we're
mm.
bringing them into the world in a new way.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and it's also really about understanding our interconnectedness with
Mm,
nature, with Mother Earth, and
mm,
really putting that at the center of everything that we do.
And I
Uh,
think that ancient indigenous wisdom has so many markers for that.
mm,
Like when you look at so much of the wisdom there, that's there to guide us and connect us deeper to that world
mm,
around us. Mm,
mm. And I think a beautiful, beautiful notion from ancient Indigenous Aboriginal culture is this notion of looking at intergenerational equity. So,
mm,
looking at like pondering what the world would be like 1,000 years into the future based on how we treat one another and the land and what we do now. So, really having that viewpoint of everything that we do in the now, how is that going to like influence, how is that going to impact generations, the earth, culture, societies, everything 1,000 years to come. So
And
do you
that's
want to
such a
add anything
profound,
else?
yeah, and that
Yeah.
1,000 years, projecting 1,000 years into the future is such a profound concept to bring into our
Mm,
work, because imagine if some of the huge labels that are out there, these huge corporations,
mm,
imagine if they had sat down when they were forming their business
mm,
plans, and they thought, what's going to happen 1,000 years from now if we project into the
mm,
future based on this business model? What's the world going to look like, and what will be the
mm,
ramifications of this way of doing business? And so I think that's such, it can be such a marker for the way that we approach business as creatives and how we think about,
mm.
you know, how we work within this space. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so maybe we'll move on to community.
Hmm.
Do you want to hit that one off, Amy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think community is such a key part of the bigger sustainability picture. And the reason I feel like this is because I think from every facet of society, but like as a designer, the importance of considering community when we put something out into the world. How do we tell the story around that to
Mm,
the people who are going to wear this item, or to
mm,
you know to buy this product? How do we tell that story? How do we communicate that to our communities? And from a consumer point of view, I think a huge part of the issues that we face in our world today come back to the crux of community, like come back
mm,
to the fact that we're so disconnected from our tribal groups and from our roots and from our sense of community. Even though we have this tech that connects us more than ever, we're more disconnected in the physical than we've ever been in our lives before. And that leaves this hole within ourselves. It leaves this gaping hole that we
mm,
are filling with things. And as designers, we need to consider that, like, how is our message being shared around what we create? Do we contribute to the filling of that hole? Do we contribute to that feeling of
mm,
disconnect, or do we invite people into a more intimate,
mm,
kind of relationship within community? And yeah, just that whole, how do we cultivate community within our design as well? So
mm, mm.
do you have anything to add to that?
Um, Maybe just about how we've chatted about this before, how we both feel resources, information, and knowledge really
Yeah.
needs to be shared more, kind of getting rid of also this competitiveness, this
Yeah.
really sharing and creating community through that, for like really trying to connect with people that have similar visions, and
Mm,
really using that for in a powerful way, not for,
absolutely.
yeah, there's no such thing really as, competition. Like we can all be successful. So how does that
Mm,
look? Mm.
absolutely. Like real collaboration. Like what does that actually
Mm.
look like beyond what we've been told it looks like, which might be, two brands partnering up to create a product line or whatever. What does real
That's it.
collaboration actually look like? Because real collaboration, real community can exist where there's fear, and fear
Mm.
is what competition is. It's fear that the other will get your um, will get sales, or it's fear that you're going to lose out because someone else wins. And in the business
Mm.
world, that's so prevalent. So how do you cultivate real collaboration and real community?
Mm.
Because it's so clear within this space that collaboration is essential if we're to really
Mm.
realize sustainability within this scene. So how do we cultivate that? How do we
Yep,
create that real sense of community um, without that fear permeating
exactly.
everything we do?
That's it. Yeah.
Mm.
Awesome. Okay. So next one we have is self.
Mm.
And do you want me to start on this one?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So the self is really about, we feel, there's two elements of the self. There's our inner self and there's the outer
Mm.
self. And our inner life translates into our outer life. So it's about, connecting to our voice, our purpose through various creative expressions, because that's the context we're coming from here.
Mm.
It's about, really cultivating moments of presence, of mindfulness, of slowing down, and really looking in and checking in with yourself regularly, with your own heart, with your own soul, to see, with what you're doing, what you are creating, is this in alignment with my values, with who I am inside? And really trying to, I guess, churn out all that noise, which
Mm.
isn't easy to do. So also I think a big element of the self is cultivating inner resilience.
Mm. Yeah.
So, especially with the fashion system, it is so hectic and it is so fast paced, filled with so much noise.
Mm.
And, you know, um, you can really get inundated with all that noise and, all those voices telling you how things should be done, like the paces you should be going at. And we can see, like, there's a huge, immense amount of mental illness in our world.
Mm. So much.
Nearly so much, nearly everyone I know is experiencing or has experienced some form of mental illness. And that does come from a lack of connection, but a lot of that is also environmental,
Yeah.
listening to these societal noises.
Mm-hmm.
So in fashion, how can we really cultivate that deep connection with ourselves within, to then cultivate that resilience, so that we're very grounded and we can navigate a little bit, a little bit better, a bit stronger, with the outside world.
Mm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What do
Yeah, and I
you
think
do?
within
Yeah.
self, it's cultivating that deeper connection to all those different um, other four elements there as well. So it's that is cultivating that connection to the earth and everything like that, to this,
Mm,
to source, to your own personal spiritual practice, whatever that looks like for you, to community and to all those things, because I think that lends itself so much
mm,
to how you are able to operate, what space you're able to operate from, the vibration you're able to operate from. Those other pieces lend themselves to your
mm,
own resilience, to the way that you operate within the
mm,
world. So, um, yeah, I totally
mm.
agree.
Yeah. And just one more thing I want to add about that is, um, really like looking into self-care and
Yeah.
self-nourishment.
Yeah.
and how we can do that as designers, as creatives, as humans.
Mm.
So, really nourishing ourselves from within first, and then that will get translated into our work.
Oh,
So what,
so much so.
yeah, and what daily rituals can we cultivate? Little things, but yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
think
and I
that.
think that's the thing is when you're talking about sustainability, it's not only about your the practice when it comes to your work, it's also
Mm,
sustainability when it comes to yourself. How is your
yes.
emotional, spiritual, physical health? That's part of sustainability. If
Mm-hmm.
everything starts with you. Everything begins
Exactly.
with the self, and that's why when you look at
Mm,
the 5 elements in the little logo, you'll see the self is at the center because everything begins with me. And so
mm,
it's so essential that we begin with ourselves and we cultivate sustainable relationships within ourselves, because everything works outward from there. So
mm,
within our creative practice, everything begins in the center with me, and is essential that we address that
mm.
self piece.
Yes, absolutely. It's so important. Should we move on to source? Do you want
Go
to
for
hit
it.
us off with that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is the one that I think people will struggle with the most, is source, because
Yeah, yeah.
when we look at our society, we're very much conditioned to have a preconceived notion around source, whatever that is, relating to the way that you were raised or the way that you grew up.
Mm,
So for some people, when they think of source, there's a trigger point or there's a pain around that idea of there being a creator or a god or a source or whatever.
mm,
But it's not saying that there is any specific one way. When
mm,
we talk about source, it's acknowledging that there is a central heartbeat to everything that exists in our world. There is one central
mm,
heartbeat. There is one central creative force. And there's a realm beyond the physical that
mm,
exists, and you can identify that when you get still enough. And for
mm,
some people, it becomes called God, and for some people, it becomes called
mm,
Allah or Buddha. It doesn't matter, but it's acknowledging the fact that um, there is a greater creative force beyond the physical realm that kind of ties us all together. And when we're connected to that, we're tapped into um, we're tapped into a deeper connectiveness that
mm,
informs the way we create. When we're tapped into the fact that we're all interconnected, that all life is
mm,
interconnected by this greater creative force, the way we go and create is very different than when we're
mm,
an individual and we're disconnected from all that's around us. And so source simply reminds us to connect to something greater beyond the
mm.
physical realm, and beyond ourselves. You can call it whatever feels good to you.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. The point is that we acknowledge that that's there, and we cultivate a sense of connection to that, a sense of practice, if you will, around um, around the world that is beyond the physical, I guess.
Mm. And yeah, just like you said, I think it's also really understanding that we are co-creators
Yeah.
and that we can utilize this connection and this energy for our creative work. Like we're not alone in
Mm.
doing this. Whatever you want to believe, if your source is Mother Nature or community or whatever, it's just, yeah, really understanding that we're not in this alone, that we are all interconnected, and how can we use this?
Mm.
Um,
Absolutely.
hmm. Um, so our last one is Earth. And I feel that this interrelates into ancient ancient wisdom quite a lot, because ancient
Mm.
wisdom, the earth was seen as their form of spirituality.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's really about, just like I mentioned before, it's about putting nature at the center of everything, really moving away from, this anthropocentric world where the human is at the center of everything,
Mm.
to putting nature at the center of everything, to what I heard at the Sustainable Fashion Conference the other week is, how can we ecologize design? How can we ecologize everything, really? Because if nature is taken care of, then everything else is. We are. So it's, you know, how, like, it's this continual asking of, also in our work, how would Mother Nature do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like those
Yeah,
WWJD bracelets from the 90s. We need how would Mother Nature do it bracelets. Yeah,
that's a great
absolutely. And I
idea.
think that all of these elements are so interconnected. Like they span over into each other so often. Um, but the Mother Nature piece, I guess it's the most obvious piece when we're talking about sustainability, but the way that we related to her and the way that we've had a connection to the earth has been so has been very, from my point of view as an Indigenous woman, has been very a very, how do I say it, very colonial view of it. So when
Yeah.
we speak about Mother Nature today, from a sustainability point of view, we talk about saving our world and things like this. But the thing is, which I find really interesting, is that the world's going to be here. It's all of
Yeah.
us who are fucked.
Yeah.
So if we don't get our act together, if we don't get on board with the fact that we're all part of this larger ecosystem, we're all interconnected, if we don't understand that piece, it's not her that's going to be destroyed. She'll be here always. She'll be here after
Yeah.
us. It's us that will have this issue. So it's understanding our interconnectedness with all the earth around us, and realizing that we're just a part of it, and every part of this earth around us has its piece to play. From
Yeah.
the cockroach to the mouse to us, we've all got our own intrinsic value that is equal to each other, and that's really hard to understand when we come from a Western viewpoint. But every piece of nature has its own intrinsic value that's equal to yours and mine. And so how do we work with nature, and how do we ask when we create, like,
Yeah.
what resources are available to me, not based on what everyone else is telling me, not based on what, you know, the sustainability handbooks say, but if I was to ask Mother Nature, and if I was to listen to her. And when you go into indigenous and earth-based, ancient earth-based wisdom, you'll notice that there was a communication that happened
Yeah.
between nature and earth and the human. And so if I was to ask her, genuinely ask her, and then take the time to listen, would the materials and the way that I create be very different than when I'm just going off of what I'm told to do? So cultivating that connection with the earth, where I can ask those questions and take the time to listen rather than
Yes.
take everyone else's word for it, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Absolutely. And also, how can we give back? How can we give back 10 tons more than we're taking?
Yeah, how can our
You know,
relationship become reciprocal with the earth?
exactly. And yeah, how can we really like give like a deep regard and gratitude to the earth as well through our work?
The ultimate
So that,
sustainer.
exactly, exactly. So that's our 5 elements. Um, do you want to maybe explain how we were going to go through how it's all going to work,
Okay,
weren't
perfect. Yeah.
we? Yeah.
So initially, if you've been following along, you would have kind of seen we had our website up, and initially what it was going to look like is that this space would be a subscription-based space. Everything would be hosted online. But what we've really felt called to is to open up this space to everybody, so that everybody who feels called to explore this space can really get acquainted with Sustainability 5.0 and what she is, and how she's here to serve the world as her own kind of entity. And so you can get acquainted with her and really explore that and see how it fits for you. And so what that means in a physical sense is that we've decided that everything is going to be hosted for the moment on Instagram. So we'll do all of our lives that we were initially going to do privately. We're going to do them on Instagram, so you'll be able to find them here. And we'll always announce when one's going to be done a day or two ahead, so you have the details there. And you can check it on replay for 24 hours or whatever. And then I think what will happen is it will be hosted on YouTube or something. We haven't decided yet. Like I said, we're still making things up as we go. But yeah, so for now, you'll be able to find it here. And then early next year, whenever the time is right, we're going to move everything over onto a platform, at which time it will become a subscription-based space, so that we can obviously sustain it, because that's very important.
It is.
Yeah. So for now, this is where you'll find it, and we're really excited to really open it up and explore these conversations with everyone. And I think the thing that's really important to be aware of is there's so much content on Instagram and out there in the world right now, and in social media. And so the point of this isn't just to put content out so you have more shit coming in your ears, but so please don't follow along if it doesn't feel good. But if it really does feel good and the message resonates, then this space is for you. It's not about having thousands and thousands of followers. This is about really having genuine conversations and really genuinely cultivating this kind of connection within this space. So if it feels good, follow along. But if it doesn't, then we're not here to clog up your space and shove content in your ears. So feel free not to.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Do you want to go over what's coming up for next year? I'm so excited for what's coming up next year.
With yes. So next
Just
year,
kind of future plans.
Yeah. So future plans. Like I said, we'd love to move into live events and also retreats that to cultivate connection over, a period of time. And we're also currently creating. We've made up a first draft of some design spirit cards, which are like
they're so sick.
Tarot cards for designers, for prompts through the design process, kind of for introspection, for connection, for more mindful design. That's one thing we're working on. And we've got an ebook coming up as well that kind of puts together the elements of 5.0 in more detail. And we, what else was there that we're working on?
And so there'll be lots of different lives. We'll be doing lots of different lives here in this space, like we said on Instagram. So there's some really exciting people that are going to come share their wisdom with us, which I'm so freaking excited about, because we just get to sit back and learn.
Yeah, so we'll be having people come in and talk about doing business in a new way in the 5D. We'll be talking to sustainable and ethical designers who are really forging their own path and really connecting with their inner self and bringing that into their work. And we'll be chatting to them about how they do that. We'll be chatting to people about diversity, looking at different platforms, about creation. And this is just the beginning. We have so much is coming up. And I guess a big thing is as well, we want to know, what are you lacking, or what are you feeling you want to hear more of? Or I guess because this is a new thing. So this is, we're learning as we go, like Amie said, but we'd love to know what do you want to know? What do you want to experience?
Absolutely. So comment or DM us. I'm really excited about what's coming up. And I think it's, we've got to confirm the time, but on the 18th of November, we've got Mackenzie Marsluff joining us on a live, which I'm so excited for you guys. She's one of my absolute, just most brilliant teachers in life. I am so in awe of this woman. And what I love about Mackenzie that I'm so excited for you guys to experience from her is that she is in the sense that all the rest of the world judges you by, a fucking boss when it comes to business. I mean, this woman's built multiple $million companies, been on Shark Tank, all this kind of stuff. But she embodies business in a new way that
Yeah.
I have never seen anybody else do.
Mm.
She's profoundly connected in the sense of Sustainability 5.0,
Yes.
and the way she operates business, and it's just incredible. So I'm really excited for you to actually see what that looks like in the practical sense. And from, you know, from everyone else's view, she's been very successful at it, but she's done it in a way that is so not traditional, so not been
Yeah.
seen, you know, in a big way in
Yeah.
our world. So yeah, very excited for you to learn from her.
And Mackenzie's the one that actually connected Amy and I,
Of
so
course she did.
it's quite special.
Very special. So
That's
yeah, really
very
excited for that
exciting.
coming up.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so if anyone
Yeah.
has questions, you can
Please
DM us
connect.
or drop them in the comments. We'll leave the
Mm-hmm.
replay of this up for
Mm-hmm.
however long it stays up for. I'm not quite
Yeah.
sure. We'll find out.
Think it's 24 hours.
Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too. And then yeah, and then we'll see you on our next
Yeah.
live soon.
So soon. And yeah, please connect. And if you feel it in your heart, please share this with others that you may
Yeah,
feel will resonate with this.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Mm.
very exciting to have our first live done. We were both a bit
Yes,
nervous about this.
we were. And I've never
We
done a
agreed we
live,
could
so
delete it if it was really awful. But I think we did okay
it's
for our
fine.
first live,
It's
so
good.
it's fine. It will stay up.
Yeah, it will stay up. So
Awesome.
we will pop in here soon. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, and we'll catch you on the next one in
Mm,
another week or two.
yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. Bye.
See ya.